Perfect. Good morning, Phillip Alexander. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Are we live yet?
Of course,
We
we're
are live
live.
on
Yes,
YouTube
we're
and
live.
all these
We've been
platforms.
live all this time.
Yes, waiting. We taking it. We
Thank you
live
very
since 6 o'clock
much.
this morning. Anyway, good morning. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning to all your viewers and your listeners, and especially to the people who voted for change in your poll this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, well, actually,
Yes,
the major-
but isn't that telling though to you?
To me, I absolutely expected. What we're seeing on the ground is an outpouring of love and support. And we are going to be making a difference on August 14th on the results. Prepare to say the words Progressive Empowerment Party a lot on August 14th.
I don't want to presume anything. Let me just start from the beginning. You started this party a couple years ago, and in this election, there are a lot of new players. We were talking about that this morning, which I think is great for democracy. What is your platform? Tell us what the PP is about, so that people who may not know get a chance to hear it, and what kind of change are you advocating for in the way we do things in local government? Because it's a local government election.
What the Progressive Empowerment Party is about is leveling the playing field nationally in education, in access to funding for business, access to foreign exchange, healthcare. We live in a two-tiered society broken by class and race, and people with access to political power have a different life, know a different Trinidad than the rest of Trinidad and Tobago. We want to fix that. The banks in Trinidad and Tobago have been doing to people pretty much what they wanted. The laws don't work. We have people in jails for 10, 20, 30 years, longer than they should be if they had been convicted of the matter that strayed on for all those years. All of these things he's fixing. Nothing works in Trinidad and Tobago. The Progressive Empowerment Party has been built on a platform of raising those issues in thousands of hours of live video and Facebook social media posts that created a movement that became a political party on January 18, 2017, and has now become what is possibly the largest third party the country has ever had.
How do you gauge that? When you make a statement like that, how do you know?
By the support. I was in the Congress of the People. I was in the belly of the beast. I've been in political communications in these political parties for a long time, and I've worked alongside the leadership of two parties, and I have seen what it takes to get people to behave with the frenzy we are getting. Paul, we everywhere, we Manzanilla, we Niara. Yesterday I was in Palo Seco, day before I was in Cedros, Diego Martin, Mount Hope, Charfle, Lavantel, Beatam, Silos, you name it, we're there. We everywhere, and the response is the same: black, white, red, green, and every shade in between, loving the PEP, and we loving the love.
Leadership is very important in any political space. Leadership of the party. And I'm going to ask this question of all the leaders who come before us this week. Why is Phillip Alexander a better leader than the other parties' leaders in this election? What qualities of leadership do you espouse that you think the population should gravitate toward? Because leadership in any party drives the party ethos, it drives the party ambition.
That's a beautiful question, Paul, and I look forward to the answers from the others who hear mine going forward. The Progressive Empowerment Party has done what no other party in our history has been able to do, barring the start of the Eric Williams PNM that was predicated on wrenching independence from the colonials. But the Progressive Empowerment Party, in a sea of divided politics, racially divided politics, where you're supposed to have a base, a political party was created that has generated a lot of membership and support. We have zero deep pocket financiers, and we have still been able to bunch with the cows and set a pace for this election. In the last general election, 2020, we had 29 candidates. We fielded 31, 2 didn't make it past nomination day. We have strong policies that the other political parties are pilfering and using and trying to pass off as their own. It doesn't exist in any of their pre-2017 manifestos, Vision 2020, Vision 2030, nothing. All came out of the Progressive Empowerment Party that we've been very
No, no, I'm
publicly
loath to
sharing.
interrupt you. I'm loath to interrupt you. I ask about you as the leader, leadership.
Well, I come to that because all of those things would be got and begun by myself and a small handful of people who decided to take what was an activist, Phillip Alexander, and take it forward and see if it could become a political movement. The support that I had translated into a political movement. This morning I read Gregory White. Somebody sent me Gregory White, who's a serial contributor in the media. He sent out a message to all his friends saying he has no choice but to support the PEP because nothing else outside there making sense. The leadership of the party is what brought all of these people. People are committing to a progressive empowerment party that ostensibly should have no hope. And yet it is all the hope in the country. It is leadership that does that. Leadership attracts the best people. You know that you can't build a movement on one man. It has to be the people that you attract. 99% of the best people that we've attracted are still with us all these years later, not getting paid, having to put money out of their own pockets to pay for the gas to go to Palo Seco and Cedros and Manzanilla and lovingly, enjoyably doing it. Putting aside
Mr. Alexander,
Christmas Day. Tell me how much time you have for that question, because
Mr. Alexander, you said just now that there are some ideas that are originally PEP ideas that other people are using. Give us an example.
Decentralizing WASA. I've literally walked almost every river in Trinidad to prove the point that our water management system is set up on capturing the water in the hills and throwing it away in the sea and then spending $1 billion a year desalinating seawater. We propose decentralizing WASA and creating small WASAs in all of the constituencies. In fact, we propose the abolishing of the Municipal Corporation Act and the local government system as it exists and creating a constituency board of supervisors. But decentralizing WASA, what the PNM is calling commercial attaches, was our policy to recall all of the ambassadors and high commissioners and replace them with five ambassadors with responsibility for selling Trinidad business to the world and bringing foreign direct investment to Trinidad. The idea that the PNM suddenly stumbled upon about an internal affairs division for the police service. We actually work with the New York City Police Department, and we have members who are senior people in New York City Police Department, and we've been promoting an internal affairs division in police service from our inception, and also the idea of paying police officers incentives to work, financial inducement, because the bandits and the criminals and the gangsters and the contract mafia are doing it now. Why shouldn't the state get the best out of their police officers by giving them rewards and bonuses for arrests and convictions? All of those are Progressive Empowerment Party policies. They are now making their way into government, among other things.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about, go ahead, Madam.
So I'm assuming then that those are policies. The PNM is in fact in charge now in terms of central government. I'm assuming then that those are policies that you would publicly support.
So if I cook a pot of rice and somebody thief my pot of rice, you want me to publicly say my rice nice? Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that you're going to publicly support moves like measures like of that from the
as long as it is not bad handled, it is the way to go. Trinidad does not have to be this way, but I also hope they secure the borders against the drug trade. I also hope they stop the containers coming off the ports unexamined. I also hope that the education system that wants all the children to do the same CXC exam, all the children get the same books.
Mr. Alexander, there's a reason why. There's a reason. But there's a reason why I'm asking you that, you know why? Because in this lead up to this local elections, you have taken on people who are opposed to the PNM, and now they are branding you a PNM agent. I don't know if you're aware of that. Being branded a PNM agent because you've dared to criticize Gary Griffith, you've dared to criticize Kamala Prasad Bissessa, you've dared to criticize Jack Warner. So some people out there calling you now a PNM agent.
I want to say this as clear as I could. While the UNC was fumbling around trying to raise their heads from their dribble, I was fighting the PNM for the last 8 years. A lot of what the UNC is using as their campaign narrative was all issues the Progressive Empowerment Party brought in the public space. But to come to the Gary Griffith and the Jack Warner issue, it's because of Jack Warner that Gregory White is saying that he has no choice now but to support the Progressive Empowerment Party, because Kamala had to be, their words, mad to bring somebody that could be arrested at any day by the FBI and put in jail for life. How could you advocate for that? With regards to Gary Griffith, like a lot of people who supported Gary Griffith in the past, when I realized that Gary Griffith was capable of having two tongues in his mouth and speaking two completely contradictory positions when it comes to crime and crime fighting, I've had to withdraw any support for Gary Griffith. Gary told a joint select committee a couple years ago that Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her party in opposition was spending $42 million through 2 government contracts to reward gangsters for destabilizing the country. He linked the homicide rate to the opposition and is now in bed with the opposition because he's throwing a tantrum against Keith Rowley, who rescued him from his tantrum against Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Gary Griffith is nobody's leader. Gary's an opportunist with a silver tongue. But people are realizing that now. And you can't compare him. And I hear you say that you're going to be bringing him as a political leader. But a political leader should be able to fight an election. That is the purpose of a political party. You buy a drill to make a hole. You don't buy a drill to have a drill. If you have a political party, its purpose should be to contest elections to win. Gary's not capable of doing that. So he jumped into bed with the only vehicle that was available to him outside of the PNM. And he's demonstrated comprehensively that he is not capable of being a political leader. At best, he's a technocrat. And I don't think that he could be trusted.
All right. I want to go back to your earlier point where you said that the mandate of the PEP is equalizing the playing field in education and access to financing in services to the general population. How do you intend to do this through this local government election? Because those issues are not to be addressed at the local government level.
But Mr. Richardson, with an abundance of respect, you hosted a debate where the major item on the debate cannot be addressed by local government, not even through municipal policing. And I told you that then. So how are we going to determine how these conversations go? You're correct. The issues that need to be addressed in local government, spatial development planning, road building, maintenance of drains and waterways, how we deal with issues with rodents and pests and all those things that go to create a life for people. Those things have not been on the campaign trail for the rest. That's what we've been campaigning on. But to hear you ask me that now, again, I look forward to listening to the rest of this.
And your colleague said that crime should not have been an issue in the local government election. How could it not? Crime is not an issue on the local government level?
It cannot be addressed at local government level. So how could it be
not even through municipal police working with the TTPS?
If you are saying that we are going to change rules and laws and ways things work, then fine, let's have that conversation. And the Progressive Empowerment Party's position is even grander than that. Cherry picking again, grabbing the municipal police that are at best litter wardens and traffic wardens and trying to throw them into crime fighting now is ridiculous. It's going to take a lot. You're better off using the manpower strength of the Tobago Defense Force. Let's have that conversation. But again, it's not covered by local government. So it's a stretch to link municipal police with crime fighting, and that's not municipal police job.
So you stand by the suggestion that crime should not be an issue in local government campaign? Crime
is a national issue that should be above all elections. We have a country where people are dying. We've been saying that for years, but it should not be a determining factor in a local government election where the only reason, Paul, that it is because Gary's a one-trick pony. That is all he could talk about. I was in your debate. They brought a commander as a follow-up to try and lock up and lock down water and garbage. It doesn't work that way. You need people who understand how things work to be able to deal with the issues garbage collection, the issuance of contracts and the local government election transparency, accountability, all of those things should be in the conversation. They're not be talking crime like local government could solve crime.
But you also take the opportunity to while you're contesting local government election with a view to 2025, no doubt, as a political party. Is that incorrect?
And I agree with you. But at the start of this little part of this interview, you said to me that you want to limit it to issues that can be affected by local. It's not my
I didn't say that. I asked a question.
To argue with you. I understand what you're saying, and for the most part, I agree with you. I was just pointing out the inconsistency, but you're absolutely correct. And I want to say that municipal policing, like much of the local government system in Diego Martin, there are two local government systems, two, that nobody could explain to me. There is a Diego Martin Regional Corporation that is appointed. There is a Diego Martin Regional Corporation that is elected. They have about 19 offices and nobody knows which office does what. The entire system is failed. It is broken. And now we come in with duct tape and spit and calling it local government reform. You see, they know that they could put terms and frighten people or distract people with terms, empty the clip, reform local government. But you're not taking it to the obvious conclusion of explaining and breaking it down to people. How will this affect your life post August 14, 2023?
What are your concerns as a political leader? Because you're contesting how many districts? Your candidates?
47.
47 districts. How did you choose those districts, one? And what are your concerns as political leader of these people who are contesting these, who may be victorious?
Well, we wanted 141. But unlike the PNM and the UNC, we have no access to the backroom boys and we have no access to the date. These people from the jump demonstrated. They had Napa booked. They had shirts printed. They had candidates pre-screened. From the moment it was announced, we as a political party operated within the law, within the rules, and started to screen round the clock. We settled for 90, were able to have 47 nominated. It is unfair that the system allows some political parties a heads up, a head start. It's like running a race and giving the person half the race.
But did you have to wait for the announcement of the date to start screening candidates? Your party's in existence since 2017. You have quite a bit of machinery behind you.
There's
even
a
if
lot
not
of
funding.
resources. Paul, there's a lot of resources. Just yesterday we were joking, thank God we only have 47. We are dead. It's a lot of resources to do this. Our political systems are archaic. It's clunky. You dealing with having to go to screening by returning officers throughout the country. The Elections and Boundaries Commission has never issued a document that you could walk with and show to a returning officer. The Chapter 4, Section C says this. So everybody interprets the law to suit themselves. And you have to walk with justice in the peace and check and cash and 4 people with their ID cards. Some people want the 4 people and the grandmother. And I'm saying that to make a joke to tell you that the rules change with regards to, and we have a matter now that is trying to find its way before the courts should the reunited farmers and a couple of our members who didn't make it. There was
Mr.
one
Alexander,
candidate. There was
Mr.
one
Alexander,
candidate.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have
that out with one thing.
Sure.
There was one candidate who got back to the returning office 2 minutes late. 2 minutes. He was barred from the election in the interest of democracy.
Well, I can tell you something. 2 things I want to point out to you based on comments that you would have just made. One is that the PNM, whether in government or opposition, has fielded a candidate in every single election in every single district in Trinidad and Tobago. They've never dropped a candidate anywhere. That's 1. 2, I have been in local government since 1999 as a candidate, and the rules have not changed in terms of the nomination day process. It's always, you get 6, we used to get 8 people with their ID cards to nominate you. These 6 people must be on the list of the electors in the district that you wish to represent, right? So that rule has not changed. since I have entered politics in 1999.
You being in politics as a candidate is different than you being in politics as a leader. And your statement on the PNM is incorrect. I want you to understand when you look back to 1956 that the PNM has had startup problems like every other political party. And during the first 30 years, they gerrymandered and manipulated and changed the rules to suit their reality. So I wouldn't use them as an example of democracy in any country. But coming back to the statement that I made, we would gladly sit down under oath with a lie detector test with every other leader of every other political party who's ever had to talk about this and get them to explain to you that the rules change with regards to whichever returning office you go. Whether you and I like it or argue about it or not, it doesn't make a difference this morning. What we need is to address those things. We need
well, some returning officers, have not been very.
We need to have a fixed election date so that all of us know in the allocation of resources, time, and money that in 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days, there's going to be an election of this nature. Prepare for it. That is
I won't argue with that. I won't argue with that at all. As a matter of fact, I agree with that. We have discussed that a lot of times on this show.
Thank you.
The 40 plus candidates that you are fielding in the election, what districts are they contesting?
Wow, Paul, I can't list all 47.
But the general area, the 14 municipalities in all corporations.
All corporations. Mm-hmm. Some like Point Fortin and Pinal Debe, we have a full slate. Some like Princestown, we have half a slate. In Diego Martin, we have a third of a slate. In Mayaro, we have 1 district. In Granby, we have 3. In Arima, we have 4. So it's like that. That's where our 47 is allocated throughout the country.
Were you also able to satisfy the list in the alderman? Because you have to put an alderman for each district, regardless whether you're contesting all the districts or not.
Yes, we were, and none of my children made it to the list.
What? Let's take a breath for that. Yes. I'm glad you stopped there because you know how badly you can behave sometimes.
Yeah.
Get your move there. Stop, get your move there. Let me get back on trend, please, right?
Before you go there, you see, you just said, I want you to also acknowledge that the Council for Ethical Behavior in this election has never had to adjudicate over any complaint for the Progressive Empowerment Party, but 2 for the PNM and 1 for the UNC have both been found wanting. So do you remember that?
Well, maybe nobody officially complained because I have instances where the council operates, quite frankly. I told Dr. Raghunath that when we had him as our guest last week. Anyway, what are your concerns as a leader? Should your candidates be successful in the new iteration of local government, if any at all, or what are you looking forward to?
No, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to work within the system as it is. The most that we could do that I pledge to all the burgesses as we campaign tirelessly throughout all of the districts, I promise them this, that even where the system fails, Phillip Alexander and the Progressive Empowerment Party won't. Keith Rowley sent a tongue-in-cheek message to all of us that he will still be the Prime Minister in 2015. To mean that the government holds the purse strings. And again, that is something that has to be addressed at a constitutional level. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Minister of Finance, Central Bank Governor, whoever has control of the taxpayers' consolidated fund should be responsible for allocating equally to all constituencies, all councils, all districts, so that everybody could do the job. But Keith Rowley's statement that he will still be Prime Minister to warn us that he will be withholding funds. The UNC will use that to cry to people and say, well, they have no money, they can't work. I tell them I will come down and barbecue and curry you to fix your bridge and your road. And I'll embarrass and shame the government. And we'll use the courts. And if we have to go before the Equal Opportunity Tribunal, and as far as the Privy Council, to determine that the country has representation and all of those representatives deserve an equal chance to represent the people who voted them in office. That's my major concern.
The issue of, you said that you've been enjoying a good response from the public at large. How do you think that will translate into seats out of the 47 on election day?
Well, local government is traditionally a low voter turnout. So by midday, all of us would be reporting and noting through, we would be noting through our polling agents, you would be reporting through your own exit poll system, that there is a very high voter turnout. If it contrasts to the interest, there are people who say there is more interest in this local government election than we've seen in general elections in the past. If that interest and excitement translates to votes, and we see a high voter turnout early, Progressive Empowerment Party going to damage them.
Why do you think there's a heightened interest in this local government? And I believe there's a heightened interest, personally.
You're seeing it on the ground, you're seeing it on the news, you're seeing it in the media. Media people are saying this, that this is there's a lot of interest. There are polls being run. There's a lot of interest. People normally don't take on 30% of those elected, those registered to vote, come out to vote. There are special electors. You've never seen this much of a frenzy in a local government before. And it is because it is being hotly contested. And people have real choice. And from the start of the Progressive Empowerment Party, it's like when a race starts and you watch all 15 of the runners leave the blocks and they're running down and everybody's just a blur of runners. But at some point, people start to leave the pack and demonstrate that they have the ability to win. And people are now seeing that of the Progressive Empowerment Party and have turned their attention to us. When you compile that, the fact that the PNM has failed the nation over the last 8 years, and the UNC still has not recovered from their People's Partnership fiasco, a lot of people are saying it's Progressive Empowerment Party or nothing.
You mentioned, I'm seeing a Saturday Express article that cites leaders breach code of conduct, council rules and complaints against Kamala, PM, Jack, Anil, and Phillip. Well, I haven't got no official on information on that, but this is what the article by Anna Ramdas is saying. So it'll be interesting to see what the details of any official communique from the council is on you. Do you think you've conducted yourself in an ethical and proper manner during this campaign?
Paul, they've made no room for us. There was no room for a strong third party.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you think you've conducted yourself in that way.
Well, you see, it's difficult to answer those questions with one word because.
Go ahead. Floor is yours.
No, I'm just saying that there's no room. There's no room. All the space around the Progressive Empowerment Party, we created, we fought for that 1 inch at a time. The rules were set up to keep us out. We've had to push those aside. We've had to make ourselves, we had to create a space for ourselves and demand it. You know the issues with just the media picking and choosing. Gary Griffith, with his failed party that ain't going nowhere, get more media in the past 3 weeks than we've gotten in the 7 years we're here. And it's deliberate, and you could say whatever the determinant is. At the end of the day, politics is about giving the people the opportunity to use the 4 charters of the Constitution, gives them the right to pick and choose who they associate with, who they want to hear, who they want to represent them. And the media has worked against the Constitution in that regard. And we've had to fight that.
So again, I ask the question, do you think you've conducted yourself in an ethical and proper manner during this campaign? And I know my impression of your question is that you have to go beyond that to get attention. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Is it that you've had, because you mentioned we had to create our own space to be heard? And my original question was, do you think you've conducted yourself in a proper and ethical manner during your campaign? Simple question.
Well, I always want to say yes. I always want to say we've done the best that we could, but some people may not. Other people love the strength and the courage, the patriotism that they've seen. People love my fire. Some people don't. I guess it is usually determined by where you're coming from, what you're already predisposed to, or or committed to. So I accept that going forward. I try to be the best man that I can be to everybody. My number one fan right now is my mother. And to me, if she liking what I'm doing, I couldn't.
So when you say you were evolving, you tried so that you'd agree that you may have crossed the line in terms of what you've said in the past. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Come on, right?
Absolutely. But then I'm also saying that there's an artificial line for me that other people are not bound by.
In what way? In what way?
When Keith Rowley said he have a pair of Tobago boots that is used to kick shit, and he want to be wearing his shit kickers.
All right, but let's manage the language. I understand what you're saying, but let's manage the language. We have a particular code here, right? Let's just manage the language.
Sorry, I apologize. I did not know that was not a word that you were.
Yeah,
But you remember when he said that, and that's the Prime Minister. At the end of the day, the line that exists.
Right, but because one person decides to go a particular way, whether it be Prime Minister, doesn't mean that everybody now takes it as freedom to go that way. Is everybody going to have a different approach?
Is
that what you're saying?
Correct. No, it doesn't. But you do not get to set a higher standard for me than for the Prime Minister.
But I don't.
If anybody should be held to the highest standard, it should be the Prime Minister. Yes or no?
Agreed.
So if I fail and the Prime Minister fails, you can't give me the harder slap. And
we have on this show, I could only speak for this show because we've been the ones to invite you and try to be equal to all political parties taking part. We have chastised the Prime Minister for comments he's made in the past. So you can't say that. We have. Even Wendell Stevens, who is a self-admitted PNM. Am I wrong, Wendell?
You're not wrong.
We have held him to account for things he said that we don't agree with.
Dr. Richards, I absolutely agree with you, sir. I absolutely agree with you. The only point that I am making when you ask if I cross the line is I am saying that the line is an artificial one and it is not generally, equally, evenly enforced.
Mr. Alexander, I don't know, I may have missed it, but recently we would have heard some comments from the opposition leader about light them up, empty the clip, knock it and knock it back and so on. I don't remember hearing any comments coming out from yourself or your political party concerning those comments. You care to comment now?
Yes. Can I read my media release?
Sure.
It has been brought to my attention that on 2 occasions over the last few days, persons in heavily tinted vehicles pulled up to our members while campaigning, once in San Juan and the other in Belmont, rolled down their windows and pointed what were later realized to be toy guns at candidates and acted out as if spraying them with bullets. It was sufficiently menacing to leave them all disturbed and one member rattled and traumatized. I have asked them for reports which will be forwarded to our attorneys to determine if there is sufficient information to warrant the making of police reports. What would have happened if, in the moments of uncertainty before it was realized that the threat was not real, if any armed security personnel in our detail had utilized preventative fire to suppress the threat and kill them both? It may well be coincidence that the suddenly high inflammatory and inciting narrative promoting gun violence on the campaign trail happened around the same time. But these instances make the point that we are straying into dangerous territory where political rhetoric could easily manifest dangerous and deadly consequences. Those utilizing such lyrics should be mindful of the potential for harm those words set out of context could have, and reconsider if this is a precedent we want to be setting at this time. The opposition leader and her chief defender, a former commissioner no less, are being highly irresponsible with their words and actions and are sowing the wind for attention. Because she is a stranger to the culture she is quoting, she misunderstands that the people she is gassing up are not the intended victims. The Council for Responsible Political Behavior has determined that the comments were responsible. What we need to see now is, like her counterpart in the PNM, if the leader of the UNC is going to flout the ruling, or if she's going to do the responsible thing and step back from the precipice she and they insist on dragging the nation to. Phillip Alexander, political leader, progressive empowerment. That's not the first thing that I've said on it, but that is what I put out this morning, and Paul Richards would have it in his WhatsApp. I have said repeatedly that it was wrong, It is not where we want to go. I have stood against it from the start. But in the pull and tug for media time, the Progressive Empowerment Party and Phillip Alexander only gets media time if I do and say something that touches or crosses the line, and I get that. But I have no interest in crossing the line for media time this election, as the majority of our campaigning and communicating is directly with the voters.
So, and that scenario that you just outlined is extremely disturbing to me. To me, almost equally as disturbing as the poster that made the rounds on the weekend involving the Prime Minister and a target on his chest. I think, and these are the kinds of instances that this country has to zealously guard against. That scenario you described with your candidates is extremely disturbing. Did you report it to the police, as you said? Did you?
No, because this releases this morning. I got this information yesterday evening. Immediately, I called our attorneys. I said, they do not have footage and they do not have license plate numbers. So I do not know if we have enough information to give to the police. And I don't want to waste police time. So I've asked, it happened to Felicia Holder in Belmont, and it happened to Satish Ramsaran and Indira Singhawai in Sawa. And I asked them all to write up reports. So those two or three reports would go to our attorneys who would guide if yes, they should go straight to the police.
Well, my concern is that if you don't report, because that is a very menacing threat. I would consider that, if it happened to me, a threat on my life.
Yeah.
Someone pointing a gun, toy or not, because I can't ascertain whether it's a toy gun or not.
You can't know.
And pointing in a politically charged environment is a very dangerous development.
Correct.
And I think it should be reported to the police.
Indira Singhawai is one of our candidates for St. James, and it made her come off the campaign trail for a couple of days. She was traumatized by it, and I understand, because it was a very menacing act. What was told to me yesterday, I was very disturbed by, and I told Satish Ramsaran, who's a senior member of the party, he should have gotten to this to me sooner. But they've just been trying to take the hits, and that's what the PEP has become. We just expect and take the disadvantages that come our way. But this one, as you said, Paul, I told him, no, this is not that. This could be an actual threat, and we need to know if it is something that warrants law enforcement investigating. But again, the one thing I do not want to do is waste police time. Okay. So the attorneys will tell us.
I don't know how that could be wasting police time if a candidate felt threatened by someone pointing what looked like a weapon to her. That is not a way. That is something that you should responsibly report.
And I know India. She's contesting St. James East. And what part? This happened in St. James?
No, she was on somebody else's campaign in Sawa.
Oh, because I know India. Okay.
I would advise you.
Correct, Paul, you're absolutely correct. And I am not disagreeing with you at all. I'm just saying, when I heard, now I'm not playing police, but I heard that they didn't have, I asked, you have footage, did you get the license plate numbers? Because immediately I would have said, let's go straight to the police. I told them that yesterday. I said, leave where you are and go and make reports. But further conversations told me we didn't have any evidence. I didn't want to send the police off on a fool's errand. But then what you're saying, make the report anyway, and I will.
Yeah. In our last 10 minutes, what do you want to tell the public about your campaign and what you have planned for the country at the local government level?
I'd like to tell Trinidad and Tobago it's time for us to be a lot more responsible with our country. The average small businessman this morning, and I'm talking small businessman from a $5 million business down to the bakery on the corner, can't access credit, can't access developmental finance, can't access foreign exchange. But other businesses have foreign products literally falling off their shelves. They don't export, they don't manufacture. How do we justify that? How do we justify that some businesses can open in 1 year and open 120 branches, and others struggle just to keep the lights on for the first 2 to 3 years that business school tells you that you have to go through with credit and finance to catch yourself to be able to survive? Business finance, the banking situation in Trinidad and Tobago is insane. We need to address issues like those on a level where people's lives are. We cannot continue to function as a nation where some people benefit and the rest don't, and pretend that that is normal, or let false pride and shame keep us from raising our hands and raising our voices. That is the purpose of the Progressive Empowerment Party, to speak up for the children who did well in SEA but are placed in schools that are not prestige schools, while children who did not do as well are placed in better schools. We cannot continue to have a two-tiered society. We need to level the play field and give everybody the same access to hope and opportunity, and let our people survive, let them thrive.
Are you willing to take some calls?
Absolutely.
All right. Phone lines are open. Our guest is political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party. Make sure and say it right here. Phillip Alexander.
Yeah. Mr. Alexander, just for clarity, what is the name of the farmers' party you've teamed up with?
Reunited Farmers Alliance, Devika Thomas. You should have her on as a guest.
Well, we plan to have people on at 6:15, so I'm trying to contact her today for later on in the week.
Let me know if you need any assistance with that.
Tell us about why you decided to team up with this farmers party.
Reunited Farmers.
Reunited Farmers, sorry.
We've been working with them since they started up fighting for the VSEP. Do you know that the Caribbean workers who signed VSEP 20 years ago have still not gotten their VSEP? We partnered with them over that when they called for assistance, and we were glad to help the former Caribbean workers, because we have an organization called the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago that we use to help people who are being poorly done by through injustice. And we've been working with them since, and it's been a very healthy relationship. When they said that they were interested in taking part in the elections, I told Devika, I said, this is very good. I think that you would make an excellent politician and an excellent candidate, and I'd like to support you in any way that I could. And the conversation got to the point, let's work together, and so said, so done. We spoke with other workers groups.
Good morning.
And we're interested in working with small business groups, workers groups.
Put a pin. We have a call. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Phillip. I thought I want to ask a question whether on what is the difference between you and the other leaders. I gather from that what he was asked, what qualities do you offer? What is it about yourself that is different from the other leaders? I don't think you answered that. I want to hear what you say. I'm not attacking you or anything, but
I don't take it as an attack.
What it is you have to really see that makes you as an individual different. And then this guy came and asked another question and it went off. I don't think you answered that. I want to hear that.
I honestly don't know how to answer that. To please the question, I'll tell you, I am very strong. My strength, my tenacity, my courage, my patriotism, my willingness to sacrifice and work hard for my country. I'm very bright. I am able to solve problems very quickly. People know that about me. I keep my word. If I tell you I'm going to do something, that is going to get done. That's who I am. I have made sure that my politics, that I sit with my family. My dad, we buried him a year ago. But my family, my mother, last night my mother called me on the phone to say, what's going on? Your YouTube, all of your B10s, I'm not seeing it. And I had to tell Satisha, make sure, because my mother buffing me, I'll give her your number, because she gets to tell me what I do right and what I do wrong still at this age of my life. I want to be somebody that my mother, my children, my family could be proud of, that the people who work with me, that decide to help and finance and support this party in any way, could be proud to be a part of. And if anything I could say for myself that to promote me is that my commitment to my country is unwavering. I have been an activist and now a politician, a combined total of 30 years. And I have been
fix it. What would you say is the top three in your priority fix it list? Because there's a lot to fix in this country.
What would I say? What?
Are your top three fix-its in the next 2 years leading up to the election, if you had the opportunity? Because there's a lot to fix in this country. Your tagline is Phillip will fix it. What do you think needs to be fixed first?
At the local level or just at anything?
Local and national.
Our policy to create a constituency board of supervisors will fix public utilities, public works, education, healthcare, and national security all at the same time. It will decentralize the power of state back to the constituencies and end corruption. people would be able to capture, hold, treat, and distribute their own water, make sure the children get a proper education, proper healthcare, professional first world healthcare, take care of the conditions of the roads. Yesterday, I had to do a video in San Fernando, and I actually went down in a crevasse where the road had collapsed, and I showed the people the layers of pitch to blue metal crush run, to gravel, to soil. And I told them, where's the retention wall? Where's the foundation? There's none. And that's why our roads are collapsing and things like that. So our constituency board of supervisors as our first thing would fix those things. I would engage in constitutional reform, fix election day, recall legislation so that you could fire non-performing members of parliament, separate the legislature from the executive, so members of parliament could only be legislators and members of parliament, not ministers, so that you could hire effective CEOs to run the major ministries, constitutional reform, the constituency board of supervisors. And then I think that I would tackle the bogey of securing the nation's borders. I would like to add,
you know, Mr. Alexander, I have to tell you, a lot of what you're saying was said previously by deceased Patrick Manning.
Let's go back to the phone. We have a call waiting. Go ahead, caller. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Go ahead, please.
Morning, Paul. Morning, Mr. Alexander. Quick question.
morning.
As we know, Trinidad is a very corrupt society. What would you do if some of your members are elected, or what would you do if elected to remove, if not reduce significantly, the levels of corruption within the corporation?
Thank you.
That broke up so much, Paul. You heard it clearly.
He said Trinidad and Tobago is generally, in his opinion, a corrupt country. What would you do if your members are elected to reduce the level of corruption in the corporations?
If the corporations as a whole, or my members, or what?
Well, the ones I guess your members are part of, or if you can go wider.
Well, again, our policy for our constituency board of supervisors, if that were in force, then that would be an easy way to deal with, because the decentralization of funding and power makes it more transparent than 41 levels. But if it is with the existing system that exists now, the Progressive Empowerment Party would like to be a shining beacon of transparency. All our members could tell you, if you commit any act of wrongdoing as a member of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and we could identify that you are in fact engaged in wrongdoing, you'll be distanced from the party and action will be taken to the fullest extent of the law.
All right. Paul, you're muted. Paul,
You have a minute to pitch your party and your candidate. Go ahead, please.
Sorry?
Philip, we're closing minutes now. You have a minute to pitch your party and your candidates for next Monday. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
I'd just like to ask Trinidad and Tobago to please come out early on the morning of August 14th. Vote for your Progressive Empowerment Party candidate. Look for this symbol on the wall behind me. That is the Progressive Empowerment Party symbol. Go out early. Vote for that candidate. When you get a Progressive Empowerment Party councillor, you get me. And I will make sure, because we are in this local government election to prove that government can work, that political parties can keep their word, so that at the general election, you will take a chance, make us your choice, and give us the opportunity to fix Trinidad and Tobago.
All right.
Philip, thank you so much for being our first guest this week. We appreciate your time. And you see how we fear to meet people. We try to give everybody a chance,
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. Again, thank you to all your viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much.